Hi, everyone. And then we have like another minute. So I'll just keep watching. I like to start on time. Where? Welcome, welcome, everyone. As you're hopping on, I do have the record button set. I'm going to do one thing real quick. I'm back. I'm back. Hello, hello, hello. I'll give it a few more seconds, but I like to start on time to be respectful of the people who show up on time. And true confessions, I have a scar from my childhood about being a flower girl in the wedding, and my mom made us late. So I like to be timely. I also think it's a little anxiety inducing, even though I've been doing these kinds of things for way over a decade. When you log on and you don't really like, am I in the right spot? Can I hear? So I try to make some kind of sound without singing to you. I'm going to, if I get a noise in the background, or you might want to take a minute to mute yourself at this point, and then you can always type questions in the chat. I will go through the material and then happy to answer anything that you have on your mind. You're welcome to enter those into the chat while we're doing the session. I'm doing it by myself, so I don't have somebody kind of one person watching the chat, just so that you know that. But I'm going to kick this off then with today's topic. So thank you so much for taking the time to come today. My intention is for you to enjoy the experience and get something out of it. Please do, if you have questions, they're all valid and helpful. And if you have that question, someone else probably does too. So don't hesitate to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. So this is actually a presentation called Marketing Your Showroom, or Marketing Design Using Digital Media as well as your showroom. So we'll address all kinds of ways to do that. Now, if I can get my slides. All right, so what you will learn today, let me move this, is that we're going to talk about some things that, I will introduce myself, but what we're going to talk about is that some things that trigger a consumer that actually end up leading to a purchase, different ways to collaborate that help move a client down the sales funnel, how important events and actually marketing those events are, how to really tell your story effectively. It's the human factor is going to continue to come more and more into play, even though what we're seeing everywhere is AI. That's kind of what's going to pivot it into humans wanting to still stay connected. And then how to get these kind of things done without having to, if you don't have the resources to hire an agency, what is it that you can do to help move this forward? And this picture is from, I live in Chicago. I love Chicago. This is a photo of every year the Walnut Room at what used to be Marshall Fields. That's what I still call it, even though it's Macy's. It's a very, for 100 years, it's been a tradition that they put up the big tree in the Walnut Room, and people create all these moments to take pictures, and they used to do it with film, and now we do it with our phones. So for me, on my background, I said I live in Chicago. I'm the Chicago NKBA Midwest chapter president. And for my day job, I am the Pied Piper of Stone for MSI Surfaces. So I'll use a few of those examples in this presentation. I have a background. I tell people I went from being in the closet because I've written 2 books and have a training program about that, to being a stoner because now I represent the stone side of the industry. And I have certification in content marketing. It's something that I really gravitate to and love keeping up on and working with and sharing with people. So what are some triggers to people's buyer's journey? And that, if you haven't heard that term, you will hear it. It is part of what marketing firms and what you could do in terms of thinking not just who your ideal customer is, but what path do they traverse to end up being in front of you and actually becoming a client. So a few of these seem like this seems very straightforward. Your aim, if you have a physical showroom, is to create one that makes it very easy for people to see, to touch, to feel, and to buy. To feel emotionally what emotions are evoked if they walk through your physical doors, and then how easy is it for them to make a purchase. We've all had experiences where something is very easy to buy, and others where it's like, could someone please take my money? So I think that's just something to really have an awareness of. If you have a physical space, think of your showroom as more of a playroom. It's a much more about, and I will overuse the word experience, so I hope no one has a drinking game going on, but it really is about creating an experience for people in as many different platforms and places as you can. So in a showroom like this, where they're actually in a downtown location at street level, having good sight lines is really important. You want people to be able to take in as much as they can and see how and where to maneuver. You want to be very consistent in your image. And this goes all the way, not just from a showroom to your digital presence, as well as your physical. And that doesn't mean tall, thin, skinny, short. It doesn't mean that. It means that how you present yourself in all ways, the more that you are consistent in that, the better. So it's very powerful if I'm a rep and I'm walking into showrooms, which I do all the time, that I don't look like $1,000,000 one day and that I'm wearing overalls or something that's a very different message the next time. So that's a powerful thing to filter through, especially if you have a showroom or you're looking at your online. And if the online doesn't match and isn't consistent with the physical showroom, that's a big disconnect for people. So the areas that you want to have are someplace to consult, seating, not just if somebody gets tired, but that you can sit around. And I think a lot of showrooms have this covered at this point, but some don't. And it is still amazing to me that there's not enough spaces where people can sit down and feel comfortable. They can work through the projects, they can pull different samples, you can show them something on a screen, all of those things that make it easier for them to make selections and then easy to buy. I talk about lighting here not as a lighting designer. I am not one. I have huge admiration for what they do. I think it's key. Lighting is a huge, huge variable. Whether you can bring in natural light. This is a store in Chicago, which if you ever have the chance, it's on Chicago Avenue. It's called Lightology. They do an amazing job and it's the coolest space. And up here is this rooftop where someone is actually, I think, getting married. So inside and out, when you drive by this store and it has tons of traffic in front of it, you get a sense of the experience. You're drawn to look because there is outside lighting. There's, of course, lighting that they sell inside, and it's creating very much the experience of like you kind of want to go in there and buy lights. And have a plan for that. It's something that I think should be a leading part of what you're doing if you're creating a physical space. The whole environment. So there are 3 photos here, showroom photos. Two of them are in Illinois. One of them is at Cucina in Milan. And it's kind of like take your own guess on which one you think is in Milan and which you think are actually in a showroom. It happens to be Apt Electronics in Glenview, Illinois. If you haven't been or you're not familiar, it's an amazing, amazing privately held, huge, customer-oriented, beautiful appliance and electronics place. But this is a studio up on the upper level. It features all the high-end brands and was designed by Mick DiGiulio some years ago, and it still looks absolutely stunning. It is one of the places that got the concept of creating an experience before that was kind of a buzzword or in the news. And it really, you should go if you haven't been. So what I want you to also think about in digitally and physically is thinking like a theater director. You are creating experiences. So it isn't just how can we, show our door samples? How can we show different countertop surfaces? How do you create something that people go, that ideally they even want to applaud and get out their checkbook and do business with you. So ways that you can collaborate to help move these people down the funnel is by creating a showroom experience both in reality and virtually. Now, I get more than probably a lot of you that post-COVID, this is a very different world. Pre-COVID, I could walk into showrooms, people would be there, they'd be regularly staffed. Now they're not. And if they are there, they're often in a meeting with a client. They don't want people just walking in. The doors can be locked for a variety of number of reasons, depending on your market and your location. So think about all of those things when you're creating an experience, and know that I say this on behalf of MSI, that we have over 46 showrooms across the country. Our showrooms are your showrooms. There's space for you to bring clients in. You should feel comfortable doing that, whether, at any point you don't even need an appointment to be able to do that sort of thing. And I think almost any vendor that's working in this industry and has showroom space would say the very same thing to you, that they want people in there. That's part of the investment. They want to create the experience and help your clients as much as possible. So that if you don't have a showroom, then find some that you feel comfortable utilizing and make that a place for you to meet with your clients. It can help the selection process, and you don't have the overhead. Great example. Take out whether you love or hate their products, the scale of their products, their business model, etc. This is Restoration Hardware, or RH. And this is the location that is in the Gold Coast in Chicago. I've been to probably 5 or 6 different RH locations. It's based on how amazing this one is, and it is the first one that I went to. I lived a few blocks from it at the time when it opened. They are all about getting people engaged and personalizing that experience. Like they took it was called the 3 Arts Club, and they're known for doing this, finding an amazing location and renovating it so that it's just a big wow. So in this place, there's a restaurant. I'll show some photos again later. There's a restaurant, a coffee bar. You can get champagne. So you can walk around the floors, and you can go up on the rooftop, which is typically not very busy. And you could just go there and have a cocktail with a friend in a very peaceful, lovely environment, surrounded by high rises in the city of Chicago. So that kind of experience, that engagement, really moves people along the path. Now, in this case, it's going to help RH. If you do business with them, that's great. Otherwise, I think making a trip to an RH store, if you have one close enough, is worthwhile. Although the Indianapolis one didn't love the outside of it more than the in. Not trying to bash anybody here today. Don't want to get in any trouble, but the way they worked with the renovation in Chicago is just, to me, top notch. I talked about like places to consult, to collaborate, and this goes all the way into now if we've had to have issues with our phones or we've changed carriers, we've all endured that often lengthy experience of redoing everything and setting all that up. So having places to sit while you're there is a huge benefit. And the same thing in a car, the Tesla people have all kinds of things. In a traditional car dealership, you often like go into the business office, manager's office, and it's more private. And this is more about places where people can collaborate and make sure that those are strategically placed. So even if you have a very tiny space, how can you do that to make people kind of feel like they can work or socialize or collaborate and gather in any spaces that you have? Again, on the experience marketing, but this was the photo of the gentleman working on the shoes on the left. He works for UGG. This was a hand painting shoe event in Macy's, in that State Street store, the one that used to be Marshall Field. People could get personalized painting on their shoes. And so he sat there and did that, and there was a line waiting for people to, they wanted that experience, and they wanted that personality, that personalization. This wasn't as much about a personality. I mean, he wasn't anyone famous. He's just an artist that works on the shoes, and that creates more moments for people to promote those. If they in fact have had this experience and their shoes have had some artist enhanced and adornment added to them. So it's just as you notice when you're going about life, where people are creating that experience. If we go back even 50 years and you think about and this still happens, if you actually physically go into a grocery store, you don't always have your groceries delivered. There are still people, it's the basic giving out samples. I think Costco still does this. I'm not a member, but that was kind of the crux of the initial experience marketing. You taste the product, you smell it, you see it, you're getting an experience, chances increase dramatically that you're going to buy it. Now, I'm going to play this, and I'm hoping that you'll hear it. But the beauty of this is that it still works even with just the way they have it captioned. But this is a video from Groupon. It was an ad a couple years ago, but I still think it's super relevant, and it's short. So I'm
Bluetooth connected. Have done. At Groupon, we applaud the have dones, for they know what they've done, they will always have. If you're going to own something, own the experience. Groupon.
So that's the mindset. Sums it up right there in a very brief, but I think effective way. You're not selling cabinets or fixtures or countertops or flooring as much as you are selling that experience. And how do you adapt in an environment where people are wanting to have more and more involvement with the experience? And I don't have all the answers for this last one, as people start using AI and then bring you what their version of their design is. So that I'm not going to go off on that tangent, but that is something to consider. So it's that owning the experience, and that can be bringing in experiences into your showroom or into someone else's showroom if you collaborate with them on that. I'm showing these pictures of finger painting because it really gets you fully sensory engaged. Cooking, we're very familiar with that as part of our industry. It goes with it very naturally. So this is just, I think, a very vivid visual of own the experience. And what kind of experience does your showroom provide? So this is actually before I worked in the stone industry. I am part of the NKBA chapter presentation program and did a presentation up at this Cambria showroom in Minneapolis. And they have a theater. I mean, they're close to a radio station. They do a lot of live performances, and it really brings people in. They created the whole showroom, as this was part of the thing. And kudos to Cambria. They are a competitor, but they do a fantastic job of marketing. And it's a great venue for hosting events. And not that you're going to do something on that scale, just giving you ideas for inspiration to think, then how could you translate or pull that back to your own space and your own business? We know food and drink bring people in, but it also really helps keep them hanging around. So if you have a way, I'm doing a couple hours over an extended lunch period in a few weeks for a design firm where I'll have a variety of food there and a lot of products and a couple people available to talk about the products. And that way the employees can come and go and interact on a more personal level, ask whatever questions they want. And it's just a nice flow in a very flexible environment. And that is something that you could collaborate with the showroom on if you were wanting to have some kind of an event like that. Or if you could, brainstorm something that was a win-win for both, that you could come up with something like that. Because we're in the kitchen and bath, most of us, or some kind of entertainment. Whether this, makes you queasy to your stomach or not, just take a look at it. Is really video, and video. And it's not about that the video can be perfect and produced. It's spontaneous moments. It's shorts video on YouTube now. There's regular videos and there's shorts. So just bits of quick content, I think, driven by TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. Reels on Instagram. All of these things drive traffic and drive people. They are things that move that potential customer down the funnel closer and closer to being a buyer. And in businesses where somebody is renovating their home, that's a significant investment. We're not talking about a $20 or a $100 thing here. So them feeling connected to you is a key factor for why they buy. And so video is a fantastic way to help that. The most popular kinds of videos are what I call explainer videos, where they're really like both of these examples, just shot with, at the time, a tiny little camera. Now you can use your phone. You can see I have a mic on because making sure that we got the sound. But I interviewed designers talking about corner space. I was talking in the Sugatsuni showroom about access to corner space. And those videos last forever. So then you can look back at them and go, wow, when I used to be young, and think you're singing a Miley Cyrus song. But people can access them and people can get a feel for who you are, or they could find you because they have a problem or they have a challenge and they need a solution. And so you can become their source for helping with that. So I have found video to be a phenomenal asset for me long-term. And I don't get hung up on, like, sometimes I can't look at them for a while. I just have to create them, post them, because otherwise I will never post them. It's hard to look at yourself on camera, I think. You're going to critique things that other people aren't going to notice. And it isn't about perfection at this point. It's not about being perfectly produced. You will see towards the end that actually generates some skepticism in people when things are too perfect or too produced. Fold in people. I think that this was an ad campaign from Sub-Zero. We're all familiar with that brand. It was on the back cover of Kitchen and Bath Business Magazine. This was a few years ago. But they're highlighting their team members. And many years ago, when I was involved in healthcare marketing, we did a campaign that featured some of our employees and some of the physicians, and it was tremendously effective externally, but it was incredibly effective internally as well, that people felt connected to what we were doing and that they were valued as part of the team. And so doing that, and you could do this with your vendor partners, with reps, with people that, your wallpaper person, your painter, your flooring people, like that is all can be very collaborative and supported. And then you all get the content. So you can have a lot of fun with that. And then you can get a lot of mileage from something like that. This is just an example of a big brand that I think did this really well. And you never know where something will come from. So a food blogger, this is from a Cook Smart source. And lo and behold, the food blogger was renovating her kitchen. And there's amazing connections that can happen when you're following, how am I going to say this? When you really follow your interests. I mean, I'm going to use this as an example. If you happen to be in the kitchen and bath industry and you're following people who, not just your competition, but things that are related to it that were part of the inspiration for why you got involved in the first place, then doing that becomes easy. It becomes joyful. You can support the people you follow by commenting on their content, not just liking it, actually take the time to make a comment, sharing that with other people, and then all kinds of relationships build. That's what has happened for me. Consider thinking of your product as art. And it is. I think that well-designed spaces absolutely are art. They're very functional art. That takes it to another level entirely. It's not just a beautiful inspiration on the wall. But this was early on, and Cambria took that into a sculpture format. I should not be talking about Cambria so much, but they do a great job, and they had done a great job with the showroom when they launched it. And so this is just a nice visual of, even from street level, you can see that they have art going on, and that it is part of that buyer's journey to see that and think, oh my gosh, and then this is where I would buy my countertops. Whoa. Is it a stage? Is it a cityscape? Is it a product display? They took the skyline, carved it out of buildings, but not carved it out of buildings, carved it out of their material. And it makes for a very interesting display. It's an attraction piece. Same with the stage. And then they even, clad their drawer fronts with different surfaces, which is great because that's what they sell. So how can you use what you sell in new and different ways? This is actually a showroom that was in Manhattan, Closets. They were very involved in the art community. One of the owners was very creative, and they had different collections moving through there all the time. It became a sort of must-stop destination. So retail thinking would be, maximize your space for selling in every opportunity that you can, and yet hosting people who come to art events, collaborating with and supporting a cause that you really believe in, that is connection and that is storytelling that goes beyond explainer videos, or the difference between a shaker style and a raised panel and a flat panel, or different edging or different hinges. All those things, those are all valuable, but how do you amp this up and make it, again, driving towards the experience? If you have a showroom, this is true with homeowners. It's really true in closets because everything gets hidden in closets. So we don't see the clutter anymore. We don't see what other people see with fresh eyes. So you need a set of fresh eyes. And that is true in your digital information on your website as well, that it should be really clutter-free, and that it's not about a hard sell. You will, of course, want to make sure that you're not giving away everything that you're doing, that you're being compensated for it. I'm all about that. But if you have stuff laying around that, if I'm coming in the first time, it's like, it makes me skeptical. So if you are used to looking at your space, ask for some feedback from people who aren't, and then make some changes in that space. Whether we love it or we don't, it is often the customer's design, not so much ours. And that is a very human-centered marketing approach. It's a balance, it's an art, it's a negotiation, it's a skill that you develop over experience, to be able to allow the customer who more and more wants to be part of that experience, and yet you're there not to be led around by the nose, but to guide that process, to be in charge of it, to make it efficient, to make it effective, and yet make them feel like they are very much a part of that experience. This is, thinking big and thinking globally, in that when you're looking for examples or ideas, look to the bigs, as they say in basketball, the forwards who are super tall. What are they doing? Because they have typically a lot more resources than we as small business people do. So how does that come into play? What can you take from them that you could then gel down into your own business? And so again, back to when you're walking through someplace like an RH or the merchandise mart, I mean, that is not necessarily what you're going to be able to do, but you get those ideas going of how you can then personalize it. All these drawers here are shallow and filled with samples and are fantastic because it's not cluttered. I mean, this is very neat and clean. There's plenty of room to sit and collaborate, work together, pull samples, go sit in furniture, whatever it is you need to do. The lighting is, we have task lighting, we have overhead lighting, it's all works really well together. This is the outside of that building and the inside of the restaurant. Even if it's a hamburger, an overpriced hamburger, it's a lovely place to sit, catch up with people, and enjoy some time. And maybe you're going to buy something. They have the coffee bar. They allow you to, walk around with that. It's just a very comforting experience. Now people more and more come in with their own coffee already, but you may have been out and about on the street, and this is a great way to just welcome you in. So I'm just giving you different views to help give you different ideas. I need to move something else here on this screen, which is, okay, we'll do that. People have a want, or they have a need, or there's something they want to know, and then they want to buy. So particularly if you can brainstorm and think about what is it that your customer, what questions do you get the most? That's what you use to create things like explainer videos or posts. Definitely people want the connection to you, whether you are a part of a bigger team or you are the chief cook, bottle washer person. How can you filter that? That will be your guidance to what you're going to do. And this was, at this point, what Joyce needed was a little nap, and we were in the furniture store. So, I mean, she didn't really, but she wanted some rest. Understand and leverage mobile moments. Some people are comfortable with this, some people are not, but it really is that idea of capturing things, not too long. I don't need a minute. I don't even really need 30 seconds. It can be super short, more super shorts than one long. Don't make this too complicated. That way you can have a thought, share it, record it, put it out there. Don't think twice about it. Let it go. You're connecting to the human part of people, not just that you're a teenage girl taking selfies while you're walking down the street. That is not what I'm talking about, but it is very much those kinds of things. I do a lot on LinkedIn. I do video, I do photos, and I then look at what really gets traction. And it's not always about who I've tagged in a post. Sometimes it's just that fun things that I find in my day that I share, take a picture of, share, and that people really resonate with. So if you start doing that, and then you'll start to see what kind of traction you can get from that. And people are more likely to engage with something like that than something that's more formal, even if your style is more formal. I have been a huge advocate for almost every single one of you on this session came to it from an email. It is the asset that you own that is your database that you're working with, that people have pretty much raised their hand at some point and said, yeah, I'm interested in what you have to say. You can look at a lot of data that can help drive your messaging from that. So email marketing is the equivalent of actually owning a home versus every other social platform is like renting. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, they all can go away. They can all change their rules. They could convert it to a pay to play. In fact, Instagram now, I saw something the other day where you can opt in and subscribe to people. I think it's $4.99 a month. I don't have enough followers on Instagram that they offered me that option, but it's an interesting way to monetize. So if you don't get involved in email marketing, and this isn't about, okay, I'm going to put together a big quarterly newsletter. No, this is still about short. It's about messaging. It's about staying in front of people, whether they open it or they don't. It is that top of mind awareness, and it's super, super effective. Here's a stat for you. For every dollar that you spend on email marketing, it tends to generate $38 in a return on investment. So these are not actual, okay, this is at the end of the checkout lane, I'm going to throw this bag of chips in my cart quick. But it's definitely, to me, the best investment you can make, particularly if you do not have a physical showroom, because then you have all the other options to leverage other people's showrooms, as well as everything that you're doing, and stay in front of people. You can be very targeted with your approach. You can have, different lists for different people for different messaging. I think it's fantastic. The know, like, and trust factor is part of what you want to do. You're creating snackable content to warm people up. So what you don't want is something that's a long, big newsletter and somebody goes, oh yeah, I love Susie. I want to hear what, I want to read this, but I don't have time right now. I would rather you send 5 different ones with one short point. The odds of you getting their attention and actually consuming your content go way up. And think about that you can give away information in your showroom, on your website, to the point where you're almost feeling like you're giving away the store. So I'll use 2 examples for that. One is, let's say you have gone to a fantastic restaurant, maybe it's your favorite, you love a certain recipe that it has a chef, that the chef makes. Or even if it was McDonald's, I think that the recipe for the Big Mac sauce is out online everywhere. Now, how many of us actually go make the sauce? How many of us actually take the recipe from the chef and come home and cook it? No, we go back to the restaurant. When I initiated the closet design online training program that I created, there were a lot of people in the industry who were very annoyed with me for doing that. They were annoyed with me for putting out all these little short videos, because if you were really diligent and you paid attention to everything, you could learn a lot, almost everything that's in the course about how to design a closet. That doesn't mean people started designing their own closets. And if they did, well, then they weren't going to be my customer anyway when I was doing that sort of thing. So it feels awful. Like I have to, I need to keep this as creative license. This is intellectual property. Yeah, there is a balance of that, but you sharing generously also builds more trust with the people that will be your customers and end up investing their financial resources for you to help them get the home that they want. You might want to make a note of this tool because it's free, and it is a headline analyzer, which I use and run different subject lines through to see which one will score the highest before I actually send any email marketing piece. So what I think might be great then shows up as, ugh, and I have a strong writing background. So I just test these different ones, make notes, and then go with the one that's the best. So it's a super objective, not like, oh, I'm attached to this. And statistically, most professional copywriters will get a 30 to 40. So I have this one that at an 83%, so then you're like, okay, I'm using that one. But it's a good, fun, easy tool to help you. You can use it before a subject line in something you were going to post, in a blog if you were writing such a thing, in an article, in wherever you have the written word, you can analyze those headlines. And that is what, that's the top of the funnel. If you can't get past, if people aren't drawn in to click by the headline, they're certainly not going to go into the content. So it's a step-by-step evolutionary process that you get them from the top of the funnel on down into where you want them. This is a stat also about email marketing that will kind of freak you out, but it's from HubSpot, which is a brilliant CRM, sales, marketing, permission marketing, publicly traded platform that I do think a lot of. I think they're tremendous and very brilliant. Their highest open rates from people are when they send 16 to 30 messages a month. I know you're like choking or shocked at that. And it seems like a ridiculous amount. We would all say, oh, no, people will be sick of me. I mean, in truth, if you're sending me a bunch of stuff, it's going to be a long time if I like you and know you, that I'm just going to do this and slide away. But I'll read some of them. But you are top of mind. And it would take a lot before I would actually unsubscribe. So keep in mind, it is a process. The money is not going to come immediately from this, but it's one of the best ways you can invest in your business. It gives you the equivalent of a showroom, but it's digitally. If you're lucky enough, this is harder and harder to do, that people, particularly if you have higher end private clients, they don't want their information shared. But if you keep that in mind, there are particularly younger clients who are happy about that, or who are posting it on their own. Now, this isn't a conversation about the painter takes pictures of your design space and then puts it off as their own work, or that is an entirely different conversation. But I want you to think about this. I'm trying to give you ideas for how you could move some things forward for yourself. And how do you get it done? So I don't really love this graphic, but it makes the point. You should be the art director, not the worker bee. And quite frankly, these platforms evolve so quickly and there's so much that you can do that it's hard to keep up with that. So you need to be the art director in determining what it is you need, what your budget is, and then align resources to help you do that. And one of the ways I have used on and off for years is a platform called Upwork. So you can source amazingly different kinds of resources from all over the world at all different price points. You can set the budget, the timeline. You just have to have your, act together on what you need so that they can determine and deliver what that is, because they're not thinking for you, especially if you're just starting out to work with them. But it's also a protected platform in that you're not just hiring some freelancer you don't really know who could end up taking your money and not delivering. So what I learned from that, define your project very clearly. Be prepared to communicate electronically and remotely. Of course, this is an online platform. These people are all over the world. You could decide, there are things like I had a bunch of emails set up that became autoresponders, so they would be triggered through a series. I knew what I needed done then. I had written all the copy. It didn't matter where in the world this person was. I just needed them to be able to work in the email marketing platform that I use and to deliver the sort of graphic feel that I wanted. When I was doing some Facebook ads, and this was a while ago and it was a newer thing, I knew I wanted someone in the US that I could have a phone conversation with, because I didn't understand it. And I knew I was going to pay more for that. that's how you can make those decisions. So cheapest isn't always the best, but it can be. You can get someone starting out and they'll give you a better rate. So it's just a very interesting way, I think, to get things done. It takes some energy and effort and organization, but it's worth it in the long run. And you can even determine the level of English. And if you want them to have passed certain tests, they almost all have portfolios that you can look at online. Yes, there can be fakes. I've had that experience. So you need to be kind of diligent about watching for what you're doing. But I would encourage you to look at a platform like this and see how it might be able to help you move forward. Blogging, it's still, it's a lot like email marketing, except that that messaging is living on your website, but it's just evergreen and forever. And this is a very fluffy statement, but it's true. Target and engage the relevant audiences that will be fulfilled and enriched by what you have to offer. I mean, that's really it. People are searching online first. We all do it, multiple devices at a time, all day long, sometimes all night long. Some of us have problems with sleeping. So when your content is out there and who you are is out there, you're much more likely to be found. You can't monetize anonymity. Break your own marketing rules, do try something fresh. I mean, calling prospects and inviting them in for lunch is not new, but it's a very personalized thing. You can send, if you're doing a gift or some kind of giveaway, like this was a cutting board that I still use to this day from a gentleman who, I had a business meeting with and was giving him advice on some other areas. And so was it cheap? No. Do I still remember him and his name is on the back of the thing? Yes. And now I was looking through my photos because it was actually 5 years ago today that I got on a plane to head to Italy to go to the Kitchen and Bath Show in Milan, to Salone or Eurocachina or Salon di Mobile, however you want to call it. But I was looking at those photos because I feel like I'm going to do a week of flashback posts because I'm jealous of my friends who are there. But I looked at these boxes and I was like, oh, if MSI would come up with a box like this, it doesn't even matter if there's something inside. It's beautiful. I would use it and keep it and have it out in my house. So that was just, I don't think I'm going to be successful in getting them to do that. But again, I'm trying to give you ideas on what you might be able to do. Kind of as we're getting near the end, so if you have some questions, do go ahead and or I can talk you through things as well if you want to unmute yourself. But I'm not going into AI deeply because I am not deep into it. I'm intrigued by it. I've used it some. I'm sure I'll use it more. I've used it in ways that I'm not even aware of. And as we all have on this call, it's everywhere. But what caught my eye the other day was on NBC News this week. And there's a gentleman named Jason Ballard who owns Icon, ICON. It's a building company that they are using 3D printing. So that isn't brand new, but he's one of the people who was pioneering that. And now he just launched a platform called Vitruvius, your AI architect. And so why I'm pointing this out is because I would encourage you to have some awareness. Maybe follow, if you spend any time on LinkedIn or wherever you spend your time, follow Jason Ballard, follow these companies, see what they're doing. Because if you work in design, you are going to need to contend with how you're going to contend with all of this that's just going to continue to kind of take us by storm. So I am not the person versed in all kinds of platforms that work this way. Vanessa DeCoco, who works for what is now Synccly Hardware, has a fantastic presentation on this topic. There are lots of other people who talk about it. It isn't something to overwhelm you, but I like following things from who's leading up here, who's kind of pioneering, and what are they doing, and what's the backlash, what's the support, how's it moving, and then again taking that down to How's that showing up? How do I want that in my life or in my business? And in a very boring slide, because I just grabbed this from, this is the gentleman who is now a multimillionaire, but he's brilliant. He created the course that I took and the venue that I used to get a content marketing certification. So Brian Clark is his name, and he's a serial entrepreneur, attorney turned entrepreneur. But was talking about, and I think the two sentences in purple are sort of the key counterbalance to the whole fear of AI. Moving forward in terms of marketing and reaching people, video and audio will become more important. As I said in the beginning, video, as long as they facilitate true human connection. AI can fake both for you, but that's not the way to success. And that perfection will be seen as a flaw. I love that so much because I find, like, I don't even like hearing myself say perfect. We say that after somebody, it's a sort of it's an automatic kind of a response. Perfect. That's great. Perfect. Why are we trying for perfect? And that the golden age of the last 20 years of search and social, that is now kind of degraded into a mess, whether that's child youth rules, what's showing up on social, how much time are people spending on it, is it replacing real interaction, like all of those things, and how AI can do, it can be fake for you, but it's really the connection. So what will come into play, and I find this tremendously comforting, is that the human element will be key, just as it was back then. Will everyone be social? No. Does everyone stand by their fence and talk to the neighbors if they have a backyard? No. We've all probably had grumpy neighbors or people who never come out. We're not going to change that. But feeling like who you are, what you think, how you do what you do, how you relate to people, which if you're following your own truth, that should make you happy and fulfilled, is also going to do the same thing for the people that you're connected to. I'm just a huge believer based on my own experience from this. So I thought this is what's happening, and I happen to love it. So I would encourage you, like I love LinkedIn. I'm on there frequently. Please do connect. What is good about these rented platforms is, my name is there. You can always find me. Should life take us in different directions, you can do a search and connect with me. And there's two cool things that I want to show you before I open this up for questions. I need to get this bar off the top of my screen, because I want this other tab. Let's do this. So I said I work for MSI Surfaces, which I do, and we do countertops, but we do flooring and tile and hardscapes and sinks and all kinds of things. But the two cool things that I really like, I like a lot of it, but that I think are fun and that are worthwhile for you to know, is that you can check live inventory of products if there's something that you want to purchase through MSI. And we only sell business to business. We don't sell to consumers. So homeowners come in all the time. But if we're looking at a quartzite, you can see these. And I'm going to try to pick one that I think we have. I don't know. We can go here. So you can see room scenes and a full slab, etc. But you can always, on any of the products, click on check inventory. I'm in Chicago, so we're going to go there, and you can see. So here's what we have in inventory. So you can look at the slabs. You can see we have like 2 of this one of this one, and then you can tag them and go out and view them. These are natural stone samples. We don't do as much viewing, selection of slabs on quartz because those are very consistent. But it's a great way for you to look and see online, what do we have here? I need 2 slabs. Here they are. Here's their size, length and width. Does that work? Do I like these, sort of warm iron spots, or is my customer looking for an all pure white Cristallo, which quite frankly, I'm sort of Cristallo and Taj Mahal are now sort of in the same category as shaker doors for me. I think there are so many more incredibly beautiful natural stones. But that's just my opinion that, like something like this, oh, that makes me sing. And the other thing that I think is people, this is not so much for me, but people find this very interesting when I show them this, is that MSI loves data and they developed this tool. So all these little white dots, this could be a plus for you, this could be a minus, depends on your, perspective, politics, life, whatever. All these little white dots are containers where we have material. So they are not moving at the speed that they are moving on this screen. You can see that there's the Suez Canal would normally have loads of ships. It doesn't at this point because of all the unrest going on in that area. But what that means for our partners in the industry, people like you, is that we know where our material is, when it's going to be docked, when it's going to be unloaded, how long it's going to take to get to a certain warehouse, so that there's much better sourcing and availability and projection for what it is you need to get, because we have such a global organization. As I said, we have over 46 showrooms in the country. So I think that this is just people find it interesting. And yeah, they're like, they're not moving that fast. No, they're not moving that fast. They're big, huge container ships. So that's just kind of a fun thing on the company that I work for and that supports me in doing these things that are helpful for all of you, I hope. And in honor of your Kachina, this was, we went to Venice before we went to the actual show. The two ladies are, one I trained from Manhattan in closet design. The other one lives in Australia, and we connected on LinkedIn and became friends. And the gentleman is a friend of ours who is leading a tour for that show right now from Richelieu, which does a lot of hardware and very beautiful products. I'm not so much about the traveling harder these days anymore, but it was a super fun thing and I just like sharing it. And so I'm going to look here, or if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, but you have to humor me in terms of make up a question, because then I feel like, oh my gosh, I've just spent all this time talking to a screen and I don't even know what you have in mind. Okay, so the link to the subject analyzer. All right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bop around a bit on the screen here. Get out of this, escape. Let me go back to, well, I have it bookmarked. If I go out of this presentation, I have it bookmarked on my own. Come on, Google. Why aren't you showing me my bookmarks? Well, that was super ineffective. Let me go back. It's a headline analyzer. Now you can see everything. And I'll go back to that slide. Give me a second here. And I would take another question, but I can only multitasking is overrated and not that effective. Advanced Marketing Institute is the name of that. And so it's a headline analyzer. Does that help? And let me get out of here again. To see, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to this and find other questions, like about what I've covered, what could be helpful for you, something you didn't like. Could you explain email marketing a little more? What kind of content? How often? To whom are you emailing? Yes, I can. I use a platform called Aweber, Aweber. A lot of people use through the NKBA. We use a platform called Constant Contact. what you're doing is staying in front of people with things of educate or entertain. And those are the two things that I think about where, regardless of where I'm posting. Am I being helpful somehow? Or am I like giving a light little moment of something that people might find funny or entertaining, or just sometimes beautiful, because that's a huge value for me. So the content is based, that's the theme. So it could be, you're explaining the different kinds of door styles. Your customer may not know that. You can explain the benefits of, you could explain different kinds of countertops. They may not know that. What I still get, what's the difference between quartz and quartzite? Super common question, which I tell them, quartz is manufactured and made by man, and quartzite is natural, made by Mother Nature or woman. And that tends to stick in their mind. So no offense to anyone, just kind of an idea of how to convey it. You really can't do it too much. That slide that I showed from HubSpot, they had the highest open rates when they did messaging 16 to 30 times a month. That's almost daily. I'm not saying you need to do that. But if you're at least once a month or a couple times a month sending out a message, who am I emailing to? What lists? I have lists of people who have attended different webinars I've done over the years. So if I know it was about closets, I want to make sure that that message is relevant to those people, that group somehow. Some of them are like customers that I have. So then it could be a variety of things. So it's a building of those lists. It could be people from LinkedIn. I have online that still brings people in from my website, 10 must-have closet design tips. So if you create something like that, that is an evergreen, long-standing piece that people can get if they opt into your list. Now, yes, they could unsubscribe, but at least they've raised their hand and said, I'm interested in what you have to say. And now you know that. And then you can kind of monitor, if they hop off, they hop off. But a lot of times they won't, and you will continue to be able to engage with them. And then if you get more sophisticated at it, once they've, just using this as an example, they opt in to my list on closet design tips. Then I have set up a series of email messages that are automated. So they trigger like every 7 or 14 days. I don't even have to touch them. And one message is about shoe storage, and one message is about corner and hanging, and one message is about hanging systems versus floor-based systems. I'm using that example because that's what I developed out when I was running my own business. I haven't done anything as elaborate as that when I've been an employee of a major brand, although I am seriously thinking about it. So that's the value. Does that help, or can I elaborate anymore? I'm happy to. And Christine, thank you. This is a super fun thing for me to do. I know if people have actually showed up, they're interested, they want some insight, or they want some entertainment, they want to be helped somehow, and I enjoy doing that. I was originally in my childhood going to be a teacher, and then I found out they don't really make very much money. So somehow I changed my mind about that. But yet I didn't, like, it still rings through. So when webinars started to be an option to help teach people and even do it, like I've done live closet design training courses. I've trained people just online. The friend of mine from Manhattan, we've never lived in the same place, but I trained her all online. So you use it with your clients, I'm sure, or you could, whether you're doing consultations and you're working with people in other parts of the country, or maybe your business is evolved to whether it is more just focused on design and design fees, and you do that remotely. There's all kinds of ways, but email marketing to me is by far it's the most valuable investment. You'll get the greatest return if you can commit and take it on to do it, because it's a lot of you have been on one list of mine or another from all of these years. So I know you from many different places. And it's so much fun to then see like, oh, I haven't seen this person or talked to this person and now you've shown up. And so I really like it. And I think people can get a lot out of it. Anything else here? I know we've gone over time, but I'm happy to answer, questions about other platforms or ideas on showrooms or what I'm seeing in the market. Like, I won't keep you here, but if you have anything, type it in or unmute yourself, because otherwise I will like let you go and end the recording. So I'm not seeing anything come in. So I'll leave it at that. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much for your attention, for the privilege of your time. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed sharing all this information. And let me know if I can help with anything in the services aspect of your business, because I'm, of course, happy to do that too. Thanks, everyone.